My name is Arthur. I am 85 years old. For a long time, I thought that sentence explained everything. I am 85 years old, so it is normal to get tired. I am 85 years old, so it is normal not to reach for my wife anymore. I am 85 years old, so it is normal to sleep facing the wall. I am 85 years old, so it is normal to stop feeling like a man and become only a polite old man inside my own house. I repeated that every night. The hallway clock showed 10:58 when my wife, Beatrice, turned off the television. She folded the throw blanket, put away her glasses, and said, "I'm going to bed." I answered, "I'll be there in a minute." But I did not go. I stayed sitting in the brown armchair, staring at the black screen. I waited to hear the bedroom door. I waited for the bed to creak. I waited for the silence to become safe. Only then did I get up, because I had already given up on being a man before even entering that room. If you are over 60, 70, or 80, and you understand this shame without me explaining too much, stay with me. I am going to tell you the secret they taught me when I thought it was too late. And so you do not get lost, I left the path in the first pinned comment below this video. You do not need to click now, just remember this. First pinned comment. I'm going to tell it slowly, because men our age have already heard too many promises. I do not want to push anything on you. I want to show you how I got out of that dark place where a man still loves his wife, but no longer believes in his own body. Beatrice and I have been married for 59 years. She saw me strong, and then she saw me shrink. Not all at once. A man shrinks little by little. He stops starting conversations. He avoids long hugs. He showers at a different time. He wears thick pajamas. He turns off the light quickly. He pretends to be tired. In the beginning, Beatrice asked if everything was okay. Then she asked less. Then she stopped. And the day a woman stops asking can be sadder than the day she argues. Arguing still has hope. Silence, many times, is already goodbye. I convinced myself I was protecting Beatrice from my failure, but I was punishing both of us. She slept beside me without knowing if she was still desired. I slept beside her, feeling that I no longer deserved to be called a husband. It was in that state that I met my brother-in-law, Howard, at a family lunch. Howard is 79 years old, a discreet man, not much for conversation. That Sunday he watched me on the porch. When I went to wash my hands, he appeared in the hallway and said quietly, "Arthur, you are disappearing inside yourself." I tried to laugh. He did not laugh. Then he said, "You did not only lose your drive, you lost the confidence to enter your own bedroom." That sentence went straight through me. Nobody had said that. Not a doctor, not a son. I had tests done, heard that everything was compatible with age, received advice to walk, drink water, control blood pressure. But nobody asked if I still felt like a man when the bedroom light went off. Howard asked without asking. And in that hallway, I could not lie. I said, "I think it is over for me." He held my shoulder and answered, "The phase of pretending is over, not necessarily the phase of living." The following week, he came to my house with an old folder. Inside were notes, names of natural ingredients, and explanations about circulation, cellular energy, and hormones. I joked that he looked like a retired pharmacist. He said, "No, I'm just an old man who refused to accept half a life as destiny." That afternoon, Howard taught me something no doctor had ever explained that way. The male body after 60 does not need only courage. It needs support. That was the word, support. He said I was trying to solve the biological failure with moral shame. As if love, memory, and willpower were enough to push blood, regulate hormones, and generate energy. They are not. The first thing he wrote was circulation. He explained nitric oxide, a molecule that helps blood vessels relax. When the vessels relax, flow improves. And male intimacy depends much more on that flow than most of us want to admit. "Arthur," he said, "no man beats closed plumbing with pride." It was blunt, but true. After 50, that natural production drops in many men. After 60, it drops more. After 70, if a man does not take care of his body, everything becomes slower. Vessels, energy, recovery, response. So he thinks he has lost masculinity, when many times the entire system is simply without support. The second word was hormones. I said my tests were normal. Howard shook his head. "Normal for your age sometimes only means nobody expects much from you." There is a difference between total testosterone and free testosterone. Total appears on the test. Free is the part the body can actually use. With age, belly fat, poor sleep, and a tired metabolism, the number can look acceptable on paper, and the man can still feel as if someone turned down the flame inside him. He also talked about aromatase, an enzyme involved in converting part of testosterone into estrogen, especially when abdominal fat increases. I am not a doctor, but I understood enough to realize that my problem was not only psychological. The third word was energy. Howard explained mitochondria as little power plants inside the cells. When they begin to fail, you feel it in the whole body. First in fatigue, then in motivation, then in mood, then in confidence. And only at the end does it appear in the bedroom, as if it were an isolated problem. But it is not isolated. The bedroom is where the bill comes due. That week, I started reading about natural compounds connected to those areas. Maca, tribulus, epimedium, saw palmetto, fenugreek, alpha-lipoic, forskolin, milk thistle, piperine. I knew almost nothing about those names, but Howard had marked each one with notes. Later I discovered a formula called Alpha Vita that brought the 9 active ingredients together in one capsule. That is why I left the link in the first pinned comment. If you want to check the list with your own eyes, that is where it is, first pinned comment. But keep listening, because the most important thing is not the name. It is understanding why it made sense. I believed in 3 lies. The first was, you are 85, accept it. I accept my age. I am not trying to look young. My hair is gone. My back complains. I need to sit down to put on socks. I know youth does not come back. But accepting age does not mean abandoning every sign of life. There is a difference between aging with dignity and surrendering out of shame. I had confused the two. I thought that stopping the search for closeness was maturity. I thought sleeping emotionally far away from my wife was respect. I thought not trying anymore was sparing Beatrice. But I was leaving her alone inside the marriage. The second lie was, A quick solution is enough. I tried that too. I went after things that promised one night, a few hours, a push. Some gave a temporary effect, but they came with discomfort, anxiety, and the humiliating feeling of depending on something to be a borrowed version of myself. I did not want to rent courage. I wanted to build confidence again. Howard used to say, "If you force the response, but you do not feed the system, you become dependent on the shock." The third lie was, natural means weak. A lot of natural things are worthless, yes. There are false promises and empty capsules. But from that to saying nothing is worth anything, there is an abyss. Ancient peoples observed plants for centuries. Maca in the Andes, epimedium in Chinese tradition, tribulus in ancient practices, fenugreek in uses connected to metabolism, saw palmetto in men's care. Howard did not treat it like a miracle. He treated it like pieces. Small pieces acting on different pathways, helping the body remember functions that it weakened. That was how Alpha Vita entered my life. Not as medicine, not as an absurd promise, but as a formula with 9 plant-based active ingredients that I had already seen repeated in the notes. I left everything in the first pinned comment because I prefer that you see the ingredients, read, and decide for yourself. My body did not need a scream. It needed several correct whispers, repeated every day. At 85, you do not want war inside the body. You want cooperation. I started in secret. Maybe that sounds cowardly, but it was human. I did not tell Beatrice because I was afraid of giving her hope. Afraid she would look at me with that sweet expectation, and I would fail again. So I placed the bottle behind an old magnesium bottle in the bathroom cabinet. 1 capsule a day. I did not expect a miracle. In fact, I expected almost nothing. But something inside me still wanted to try. And before I continue, I need to make this clear. Alpha Vita is a nutritional supplement. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. Each man responds in his own time, and some men respond differently from others. What I am telling here is my experience, along with habit changes and what I learned from Howard. In the first week, I only observed. In the second, I noticed I woke up feeling a little less heavy. It was not youth. It was less weight, as if someone had taken a wet blanket off me. In the third, I started walking to the neighborhood park in Los Angeles without complaining so much. Beatrice noticed before I did. She said, "You are going out more." I answered, "I am trying." That sentence became my motto. I am trying. Not, I am young again. Not, I solved everything. Just, I am trying. Then came a more delicate change. I stopped hiding from her during the day. I started sitting closer on the couch. I started touching her hand when she handed me coffee. I started complimenting her hair, even white, even tied up any old way. Small things I had stopped doing because I was afraid any affection would create a question my body would not be able to answer. Do you understand how sad that is? A man avoids affection because he is afraid of the consequence of affection. Then the marriage dries up not because of lack of love, but because of fear of a demand that may never even come. 1 month later, a night happened that I never forgot. Beatrice turned off the television at 10:54, folded the throw blanket, put away her glasses, said, "I'm going to bed." I almost answered the old, "I'll be there in a minute."
but I did not answer. I got up with her. She looked at me from the side. We went down the hallway slowly.
The house was quiet. In the bedroom, she turned on the bedside lamp. I sat on the edge of the bed. My heart was beating as if I were 20 years old, but it was not excitement. It was fear. Beatrice noticed. She sat beside me and asked, "Arthur, are you worried about something?" I kept looking at my hands. After almost 6 decades of marriage, I spoke the truth I should have spoken before. I have been running away from you because I am afraid I am no longer enough of a man. She did not answer right away. She only held my hand. Then she said, "I missed you. Not the young man. You." I cried. Not that beautiful movie cry. An ugly, old, quiet cry full of shame. I realized I spent years trying to hide a failure of my body and ended up hiding my whole heart. That night, nothing spectacular happened. And yet, everything happened. I did not pretend to sleep. I lay beside her awake. I breathed normally. I felt her hand on my chest. And for the first time in a very long time, I did not want to run away. That was how my return began. Not with an explosion, with presence. In the following weeks, I kept taking care of myself. I stayed with Alpha Vita. I kept walking. I drank more water. I tried to sleep better. I paid attention to food, and I kept reading Howard's notes. And yes, for anyone wondering, the link is in the first pinned comment. I left it there because many men do not want to ask out loud. So you do not need to ask. It is there. Alpha Vita, ingredients, explanation, and 60-day guarantee. Beatrice changed with me because I changed with her. My posture changed, my gaze, my desire to participate. I went back to opening the door for her without seeming automatic. I went back to asking if she wanted tea. I went back to holding her waist in the kitchen when I passed behind her, carefully, like in the old days. One day she laughed and said, "Who is this bold gentleman?" I answered, "A man trying to make up for lost time." She smiled, and that smile was worth every step. I want to speak directly to you now. If you recognized yourself in this video, stop repeating that it is over just because you passed 60. Maybe some things have changed forever, yes, but maybe others are only asleep because of lack of care. Look at your circulation. Look at your sleep. Look at your belly. Look at your energy. Look at what you put inside your body. And look at your wife before she learns not to expect anything from you anymore. If you want to see the formula that entered my routine, go to the first pinned comment below this video. It is there at the top. You can read calmly, see the 9 active ingredients, and decide by yourself. There is a 60-day guarantee which made me more at ease because men our age have already seen too many empty promises. I do not want you to click out of fear. I want you to click out of responsibility. Responsibility to the body that still carries you, to the woman who may still be waiting for you to come closer, to the dignity you confused with silence, to the part of you that may not have died, but only went without help for a very long time. Howard told me one last thing before he got sick. We were sitting on his porch watching the leaves fall without hurry. He said, "Arthur, an old man does not need to prove he is a man. He needs to stop abandoning the man who still exists inside him."
Today I understand. Being a man at 85 is not being young. It is not being as strong as before. Being a man at 85 is having the courage to care for what can still be cared for. It is telling the truth before silence turns into distance. It is not letting shame decide what the final years of your marriage will be like. I had already given up on being a man. That is the truth. But I was wrong. I did not need to become the 40-year-old man again. I needed to become present again.
I needed to support my body. I needed to stop running away from Beatrice. I needed to accept help without turning it into humiliation. And when I started this in secret, she noticed before I even told her. She noticed in the way I sat closer. She noticed when I went upstairs with her to the bedroom. She noticed when I stopped pretending to sleep. She noticed when I looked at her again as my wife, not only as a house companion. Today the hallway clock still shows 10:58 many nights. Beatrice still folds the throw blanket. She still puts her glasses on the nightstand. She still says, "I'm going to bed." Except now I no longer say, "I'll be there in a minute," to buy time. I get up. Sometimes my leg hurts. Sometimes I am slow. Sometimes I need to put my hand on the hallway wall for support. But I go. Because that hallway, which once seemed like a path toward shame, now seems like a path back to my own life. Before I finish, I will repeat one last time. What I used is in the first pinned comment. It is called Alpha Vita. It is a nutritional supplement with 9 plant-based active ingredients. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any condition. Read, think, compare, decide. If it is for you, it will be. If it is not, that is okay. Just do not accept silence as your only option before understanding your body. Maybe you do not need a miracle. Maybe you need to start small. 1 conversation, 1 walk, 1 capsule. 1 night without pretending to sleep. 1 hand held in the dark. 1 apology. 1 first step. At 85, I learned that marriage does not end only when someone leaves. Sometimes it ends when 2 people stay but stop reaching each other. I almost let that happen. And if this video stops 1 man from repeating my mistake, then the shame of speaking was already worth it. It is already past midnight here. Beatrice is in the bedroom, probably with the bedside lamp on and the book open. I know that waiting. Today I am going to her, not as a young man, as an old man who decided not to abandon what still lives inside him. If you want to look at what helped me, go to the first pinned comment. Alpha Vita is there, with the ingredients and the guarantee. If it is for you, it will be. If it is not, that is okay. But at least you will know there is a path before accepting silence as destiny. If you want to sit with me again next week, I will be here. I record these videos on Sundays. Take care of yourself, whatever that means for you tonight.